You're listening to Dude Podcast with JC and Will. Put some pep in that step. Enjoy the show.
Hello, Dudies. I'm Will.
And I'm JC.
And, I think you're listening to Dude.
Dude, what's going on, duties?
Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. Actually, that's not true. There's a lot going on, but we don't want to hear about that.
Well, I asked the duties. I didn't ask you, Will.
Oh, well, okay. Well, now I feel left out.
You're speaking on behalf of them, and
That's-
you need to give them a moment to speak and respond.
That's my B. That's my B. You know, speaking of duties, we were just talking before this. Every week, JC and I look over, like, just who's watching. More than anything, we're just fascinated that people listen to this.
Yeah.
And consistently, we get a lot of, obviously, like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Philadelphia, the greater Philadelphia area, maybe a few people in Dallas. But we have one consistent listener in Belgium, and we kind of want to hear from that person. It's mystified us.
Whoever you are, send us an email.
Seriously.
Please. We want to know who you are, and
We want to have you on, is what we want to do. We want to talk to you. We want to talk about how you found us. We just want to get to know you. You're the duty from far, far away, and we want to talk to you. So send us an email at dudepod1987@gmail.com, or just go to thedudepod.com and connect with us, because we want to talk to you.
yeah, any duty really from outside of the United States, we're very interested. Or if you're from a weird state, let's say, Idaho.
Yeah.
Hit us
We-
up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we have any listeners in Idaho, but the fact remains, we want to talk to people in crazy places.
Let's say you're part of the United States territory. You're not in a state per se, but you're part of an area occupied by the U.S. Guam, America, Samoa, Puerto
Mhm.
Rico. Those are the
Mhm.
places I have in mind that would be great to hear from a duty. If you're in those areas, reach out.
We would love to talk to you, duties near and far. But right now we're talking about the duties afar.
Yes, the far duties. Something that I did revisit. We're not going to give a review of it, but I was thinking about the pod this weekend, or really it was I think it was Thursday or Friday. We have Disney Plus, and they have all the Disney original movies, and I know we've talked about some of the Disney original movies in the past, but put on Halloween Town. I have a nearly 2-year-old. It's very bizarre, like what he likes and what he doesn't, and like what gets his attention. Like there'll be certain things that like you would think a kid would like, and he has no, some even the Pixar movies he has no interest in. But for whatever reason, Halloween Town, which is a terrible movie.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember what it's about.
Well, what I will say about Halloween Town is Metro Christian Academy's costume department and makeup department could definitely rival what they did. It was so bad. You're like, how did anyone get away with this? Was the budget like $100 and a subscription to Sam's Club or something like that? It was really, really, really bad.
Speaking of Disney Channel original movies, last weekend we were at our good friend Don and Emily Martin's house, good mutual friend, and somehow we got on the conversation of Xenon Girl of the 21st Century. And if you're probably younger than 34, you have no idea what we're talking about. But if you don't, go to YouTube and type in Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. That's all you need to type in. Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. JC, that song is a banger. That is a great song. It still gets me in the feels.
Also, Protozoa,
Yeah,
so
Protozoa.
hot.
That's
He
that's
He was the guy who sang this song, and let me tell you too, I don't think anybody in the history of I'm gonna go this far in the history of the world had cooler hair than Protozoa in the first one. He had these like
they looked like little pyramids. They were like frosted tips and like little.
they were bleach frosted spikes, but they were all evenly done. And these, to your point, they looked like the pyramids, and they were all the exact same size, and it must have taken hours.
Yeah. You know, like the pattern that like a garlic mincer would have.
Yeah.
It looks like he has a garlic mincer on his head.
But then it was interesting. He came back, and I would say that his second song was definitely a letdown.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but I mean, how could you go better than Zoom Zoom Zoom? That's a great song.
Make my heart go boom boom, my
You
supernova girl.
girl.
But yeah, so my 2-year-old was enamored with again, he didn't move. It was amazing. He just sat there. He was like watched the entire terrible. We're like, this? You like this? Come on.
On the count of 3, let's say the best Disney Channel original movie, because I got it locked and loaded.
Oh, I got locked and loaded too, dude. Yeah, not even
1,
close.
2, 3. Johnny Tsunami.
Johnny Tsunami.
So good. It's so good. I'd still watch it and be like, that's a good movie.
You know, one of my favorite weird college memories I have was
what?
You know, I think every college kid did this, but like, man, finals week was like, it was down to the wire every single time, where you're printing the essay out like 5 minutes before you're typing in, and there was like a whole range of emotions that you go through during that week, and also like trying to get your papers or you're prepared for the test or whatever the project in time. And I remember like, you know, being up at like 3 a.m. and like trying to like take like a mental break in between my paper or whatever. And I found somebody had uploaded Johnny Tsunami onto YouTube, and I was watching it in parts, and like somebody like walked in on me, like they opened the door, and I was like, and they're like, what are you, Johnny Tsunami? And I'm like, yeah. And like by the end of the evening, I think I had like 5 or 6 people just like watching my computer. We were just like, pretty good, huh? Pretty good.
It's a great movie. I have no shame in saying that. Great movie.
Hey, Pollo. You know what was a little, I will say this. I have deep respect for the Hawaiian people. I want to preface it with this. I have deep respect for the Hawaiian and Polynesian people. But it sounded like he was saying, hey, porno.
Yeah.
And as a child,
to be clear, this is the grandfather.
The grandfather who had the grandfather had a lot of beef with his son. Not Johnny Tsunami, but Johnny Tsunami's dad. They had some issues.
I just Googled it. Pono is Hawaiian for righteousness.
Hey, righteousness!
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Well, Grandpa was pretty cool, but I was very confused as a young man when I was hearing that word thrown around, and again, didn't have a smartphone readily available to be able to just look up what that word was. I just had to.
We just had to roll with it.
We had to roll with it, baby. Had to roll with it. What's going on in your life, Will? Anything particularly exciting?
You know, we're just kind of doing a bunch of, I'm coaching T-ball now.
I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You held out on me. You didn't tell me you were a coach.
I am, and I run a tight ship. You know, when they strike out in T-ball, which is not even possible, I make them run laps.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, we're 1-0.
Have you fought any refs yet?
Yeah, well, they don't have any, but I got to yell at someone, so I yell at the other kids on the other team.
That's good. That's the right way to handle it. Are you in charge of refereeing your own contest? Is that how it works?
Let me tell you, there's no chance that the kids have any clue what's going on. So it's really the point of it is let's just make sure they know. Like soccer and basketball, you know what to do, right? You kick the ball into the other net. You put the ball into the other net.
Soccer is the best in the sense of it is the most for tiny children because it is the most basic concept of any of them.
I mean, basketball and soccer, it's kind of the same concept.
Yeah.
I would say football and baseball are probably a little more confusing.
Oh, way more confused. Football. Most people watching football have no idea what's going on. Football is very complicated. Football is a very complicated sport.
It's the little nuances of the game that get people lost. Like, well, why did this happen? Why did that person not go to this base? Why is he out?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the right order of like the big. I would say hockey also. Hockey's fundamentally
Dude, I do
easy.
not understand hockey. It's so much more complicated than you think it would be.
No. Yeah, I agree because the whole blue line. And all, I agree. Like the nuances of hockey but the fundamentals of hockey are very easy to understand.
Right.
Whereas even with football, you're kind of like, what? Like it does get baseball is just the technique that goes into baseball is I think more complicated. I think it starts getting really the layers that are within baseball is what makes it very, very complicated.
Right.
But name of the team. What is the name of this team?
We are the Rangers. And I fought hard to make it the Brewers, but it wasn't up to me. And in retrospect, children being the Brewers, promoting alcohol, I guess I get it. But
it'd be incredible if you had they had little beers on their shirts. That's amazing.
So, okay, can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
We're running on a software for those of you guys don't know, so we can kind of see each other's faces, right? And as I look at my face, I can see my lip looks a little swollen. I don't know if you noticed it, but as I put my son to bed, I gave him a hug, and he just kind of like propped up real fast and hit his head on my lip. So I don't know. I'm a little insecure about it now.
I think your lips look fine.
You know what? Maybe I got like a glow up.
I almost think you got like an injection. Like you went to somebody and you got your lips done. So I don't know why, but it reminded me of T-ball. So Millie, my niece, played T-ball for the first time like last year, and I thought the name of the team was incredible. That's why I asked the name of the team. They were the Spiky Tails.
Oh, she had spiky pants, or they were called the spiky pants?
Then no, Tails, the Spiky Tails.
That's the name of their team?
The team's name was the Spiky Tails.
That's kind of fun, actually.
That was incredible. That's why I was like, man, are they just letting? Because it was very clear that they let the girls just. I don't think an adult came up with, hey, what about Spiky Tails? And then my other favorite thing was the outfits that they had were gray, and Millie didn't know this, and Millie really, really likes vibrant colors, and she wears really pretty dresses and tutus and dresses up like princesses a lot. And so she literally cried her eyes out when I'm not like hysterically cried for like an hour. So what they had to do to so that she would even attend the game or practice was to get a little ballerina dress and to put it over her outfit.
So she wore a tutu?
Yes.
I was like, that's a good solve, I guess.
Yeah, that was the move. But I don't know. I would love. I just think it'd be hysterical to be in I don't know, like an adult league softball team, and your name of your team was the Spiky Tails or like the Sharp Tooth or something like that. Just something that was like quintessentially made up by a bunch of 4-year-olds. I think it's great.
You're a part of a team called the Conshohocken Cord Suckers. So, I mean,
This is true. And there's a chance we're going to get you up to suck some corn this season.
That would be fun. I would love to be. It would be an honor to be a corn sucker. So, you know how? So okay. So you reminded me of something when you're talking about uniform colors. When you were in, I think, maybe eighth grade, eighth or ninth grade, you decided you wanted to join the football team, and your dad apparently didn't know how to do laundry because we'll tell everyone what happened.
I forgot about this. Oh my gosh. You're right. This is a great story. Yeah.
So
So
what happened because it's just so like of all my friends, like this would happen to you.
it would happen to me. So my dad, so our jerseys were like, it was what? So, but anyway, so I only played 1 year in 8th grade. I had no idea what I was doing, didn't understand football at all. And my dad, my sweet dad,
He was doing his best.
he was he was doing his best, but it wasn't that far off from Mr. Mom. If you ever watched that Michael Keaton classic, not too far away from that. Joel did his best though. But yeah, he definitely washed my jersey with something red or and I had a no joke pink jersey.
Your jersey and pants were pink, and it was hysterical.
And I was the only one.
Well, obviously, yeah.
It was incredible.
Did you use it that year, or did they give you a new one?
I mean, I think I at minimum had to practice in it. I think maybe at some point, like somebody like felt sorry for me and they maybe threw me another jersey. But I do think for a little bit I definitely had to play in it. One of my other favorite memories of playing football was, I mean, I was terrible. And again, a lot of it comes down to it's such a complicated sport. And I was so wildly dyslexic at the time. I didn't know my right from my left. So they would be like, okay, like I'm no joke. I had to put R and L on my hands because I was so confused on which way to go.
I didn't know this about you. Were you actually dyslexic as a kid?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't read?
I could read, but there'd just be certain things like words would like kind of be like flipped and there'd be, yeah. And I just got used to it. I eventually kind of figured it out and I kind of outgrew it a little bit. And then some of it, but anyway, so I had that and I had pretty severe learning disabilities. So yeah, I had to put R and L on my hands. I couldn't remember which one was which. And so that was a problem. So I was definitely a liability. But I'll never forget. And my friends that played were crying, laughing so hard at this. There was one play that I played safety, and again they were just sticking me anywhere where like maybe I could do something. And I was pretty fast, but I couldn't. Yeah, I wasn't fast, but I was fast. I was fairly fast, but I couldn't. I wasn't very big. I was just a little stick. So there was a pretty good athlete was cooking us this day, and he was breaking a long one, running back, and I actually managed to catch him from behind, which is pretty impressive. I caught him, and literally, Will, it was like
he dragged you.
Oh, he dragged me like 10 yards, and then eventually he just I think got tired and fell over. I stopped the touchdown, but again, I think he just kind of felt bad and gave up, at that point.
Yeah, that's great. I just remember that the pink jersey, thinking like, oh no, this isn't a good look for a kid who's trying his hand at football. And
no, it certainly didn't help. No, but I know that one of the cool things in the podcast that we're doing today is me and you, obviously, we get on here and we usually film or tape longer than what you actually end up seeing either on YouTube or listening on the podcast. And sometimes just due to time, we have to cut some things down. And me and Will had this just very, very bizarre dinner experience that we'll describe. And we want to be able to share that ridiculous story with you. So Will still has that nugget. We're gonna actually cut in with that, so you'll be able to hear that awesome, hilarious story.
I was like, we got to put this in its own podcast because it's such a great story. It's one of the funnier things JC and I have experiences we've had. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, anytime you end up at a dinner party and someone starts bleeding out of their face and they don't realize it, that's a good time. That's a good, and the man is in their 50s and he looks like an oversized frat boy.
You know, when people talk about Breaking Bad, they're like, it's so great because you see the chronological like timeline of, Walt White becoming, this normal everyday guy and turning into a drug lord. It felt like that in one night. It was like this man was normal at first.
It was that in literally 2 hours. We basically got to watch Breaking Bad in 2 hours. I mean, it was amazing. Anything else, Will?
No, just keep on listening, keep on subscribing, and we really appreciate you guys listening. But we really do appreciate it.
All right, duties. See ya.
Goodbye.
Have a good week.
So JC and I decided it's time on the podcast to talk about one of the most insane dinners we have ever been to. JC, I want you to give the backstory because we were in your neck of the woods. We were with your aunt. Can you set this up?
The one of the interesting things that brought me to the Northeast, and one of the reasons I decided, so I moved up here originally for a job, but one of the things that made it possible was I had family who lived in the area, and my Aunt Lisa and my cousin Leah are awesome. I lived with them for a while. I'm very, very close with them, and they still live in the greater Philadelphia area. They live in New Hope. So if you ever need to go to an awesome bed and breakfast in New Hope, PA, let me know. I can hook you up. So she lives in Bucks County, which is probably about like 30, 45 minutes outside Greater Philadelphia. Beautiful area, great part of the country. And she has always, she's kind of always been a part of like a little bit more of like they're affluent. And, it's kind of been part of like
affluent is putting it nicely.
Yeah. I mean, they're very wealthy and had been part. So she's the kind of person that was on boards and, and also very well educated. And it's just like sort of like old money. And that's kind of where, she's always kind of lived in very interesting, areas. Typically, I mean, they're always going to kind of lean like liberal, it's just kind of that East Coast sort of elite sort of areas that she sort of gravitates to. And she's awesome. She's brilliant. And
I do want to say this was the first time this particular night was the first time I met her. Super, super, super nice and friendly.
Super nice, super friendly, hilarious. And then just also brilliant and incredible, again, does an incredible job running her bed and breakfast that she has. So anyway, we get invited to a dinner.
We being you and me.
Me and you were up there, and my aunt was like, "Hey, I want you to come to a dinner." And my aunt at that time had been pretty recently separated, and like I just felt like, hey, whatever she wants, like, yeah, I'll come. Sounds great. I love supporting her, and she always had such interesting friends. Like she would have these big parties, and there'd always be these like this characters who they always did very interesting things. They'd be professors, or they be doctors, or they were authors or psychiatrists. She always had these very interesting people around. And so I was always like kind of like gung ho about it. She invited me to a place, like it's like, okay, I'm gonna meet some really interesting people, but I hear some cool stories. It's probably worth going to. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I told Will, hey, we should go to this, because A, it's supporting my aunt, who I love to death, who's kind of going through a rough patch, and B, she always brings you into like cool, unique situations, right? So we go into this beautiful old home.
It's a really nice neighborhood, and it's not a big home, but it's just You're right. It was a very beautiful hunt.
And they have what kind of the Scotty dogs?
I remember it was a couple probably in their 50s at the time, and they had a really nice home with nice things. Not big, and they had a bunch of little dogs around the place, and they were just really sociable. They came in, they're like, "Hey, you guys want some wine? Like, welcome to our home," and they were very friendly and welcoming.
And I think like if you paint a picture of the home's aesthetic, it's a lots of oil paintings.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful old furniture,
Cheap.
leather, a lot of leather couches, and like, again, every piece of furniture, you're like, that chair has got to cost like $5,000.
Right.
That.
It was just well curated home.
Yeah. It's sort of and they're both really well dressed, sort of that kind of American
Right.
Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
I think he had like a sweater wrapped around his shoulders, kind of that old school, like kind of yachting look.
And based on the way they were treating us, that they were just really good at hosting, because they had like wine out and beer out, and they had like little like hors d'oeuvres, and we were all hanging out in the kitchen just talking and chatting.
Yeah, they had the like charcuterie boards. They were like being handed around, and again, like every room was just very every room has like a theme and a lot of decorations and all that. And again, like it's just it's kind of what this is interesting.
Yeah.
The gentleman, I want to describe the gentleman. The gentleman, he looked kind of like what I would say like an old fraternity brother would look like. He had like sort of that southern swoop haircut to a degree, like comb over. Like he had a lot of hair for someone in their mid to late 50s, and he still had, again, he looked like he went to an SEC school and was in the fraternity, right? And he had like a polo, and he had the yachting
polos and loafers and like the
loafers, and he was, but he's a heavier set gentleman too. So it's kind of I always find that look like fascinating a little bit, just heavier, but again, great guy, nice guy, almost a jovial guy,
right.
So the night progresses. We finally like sit down for dinner.
Once they were cooking and talking at the same time. So we're like eating like the charcuterie board, drinking wine, and we're all kind of talking. And they're like, "Okay, dinner's ready." They made this nice, like, I think it was like steak or something, and we went into their dining room, really nice dining room.
Like it was like pork chops. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I remember pork. It was some sort of a pork. I don't know why I remember that, but it was.
It was like a well-made meat for sure. And so we had this nice dinner, and then, something started happening during the meal when we were sitting in the room, where the guy would get up and he would leave, and he would come back and just be a little more animated. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that he seemed a little noticeably different, even when we sat down at the dinner originally. Like it was like
crazier and crazier.
It was like there were levels, and he was slowly ticking up.
Yeah.
Throughout the dinner.
Yeah.
And to your point, he would, every time he'd come back, there would like be like a button unbutton.
His hair would go down, like his
hair, his part started getting a little bit messier. There was sweat.
He started getting really sweaty.
Yeah, he like visibly sweaty. And again, it would be like it got to the point where it's comical, because he was just like every 5 minutes he had to like get up. And again, they're hosting, so you kind of like, it's okay because, I'm gonna go check on this. I'm gonna go pick this up. And he would come back, and it'd just be like, he'd be 2 levels closer to like being more disheveled.
But here's the thing, he was also getting way more chattier. So he'd sit back down, and he started talking a bunch of nonsense. He'd be like, one time I went on my boat, and I was with my friend, and we were like, he was like, I don't want to get on this boat. I don't like the boat. And I said, you're going to get on the boat. And he kept talking about like boating. I just remember he kept talking about boating. What started happening was, like the women who were in the room started like talking about their own thing. So I just remember it's you, me, and him. And you were sitting next to him, but I was sitting across the table from him. So I remember being like, he was just staring right at me, talking about this boating thing. I couldn't follow it. And at one point, he's talking about the boat, and he goes, "Cappuccino. Who wants a cappuccino? Do you want a cappuccino?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a cappuccino." And I'm like, what is happening? So at this point, he goes back, makes a cappuccino real quick, and comes back. And at this point, full on sweating, hair's a mess. He's bleeding from his lip. He has blood coming off his lip. And he's out of his mind. And at this point, I'm pretty sure he was doing some kind of drug of sorts.
Well, he was also laughing. He was like, "Hey, you know what?" Ah! Like he was like kind of like chuckle, but like he was like, it was almost like his internal dialogue got lost too. Like he just was meandering, and then he just was like, ah! and you already are hard of hearing, and you're not really understanding. But then like I think there's a point too, which is great, because you probably struggle with this from time to time, where you're like, okay, you live in a world where you're like, okay, is this person making sense, or am I just missing it? And there was a light bulb that went on where I think at some point you made eye contact with me, and I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, and he's been talking for an hour, and we're stuck in his house.
You, me, and your cousin kept looking at each other like, okay, we're all saying this, right? Bleeding from his lip, sweating, and he's just chugging cappuccino and whiskey, and he's just he was talking like an old sailor who was like so like soaked in rum. He was just
It was like he was like cussing randomly at us too.
He started swearing a lot.
And like again, like this was the man who in the beginning of the night was like, again, this
very
sweet,
cordial,
and then he's just yelling obscenities. And the best part was like my aunt and his wife like didn't realize like they were in their own little world, and then over here this man is like his clothes are falling off. He's like grunting at us, and he's bleeding, and he's just making noises, and it seems like he's about to have a heart attack.
It really did.
And we also like we can't leave because like we came with my aunt. It's also, I think we drove with my aunt, or there was some sort. So like we're stuck here, and like these two people don't realize like this man has lost his mind, and he's subjecting us to just nonsense. And like again, we've just met this guy. Like
we were there for hours, by the way.
Yeah, and also we didn't leave till like, I swear we got there like 7:30, and we didn't get out of there till like 10:30 or 11.
Oh yeah, easily.
And I remember one of my favorite moments is again, it got to a point where I think he eventually just like disappeared. And I think at that point it was like, oh, okay, like we found somehow like, I think we sort of like rushed Lisa out, because I think it was like this, they'll never let us go if we don't do this. So I remember for some reason Lisa drove separately than me, you, and Leah. I don't know why. And it was all of us in the car. And it was like a moment where like we were all in dead silence for like a minute. And we were like, was that not the weirdest experience? Like, did that just happen? Like, was that as weird as I thought it? Because it was so bizarre. You're like, what was it, me creating the bizarreness, and it wasn't?
I will say, I actively think about like, if I can go back in time and relive, or just be a fly on the wall of a moment in my life, that's easily top 5, because it was so absurd, and it was like, you know, when people talk about Breaking Bad, they're like, Walter White started out as this innocent guy and became this, you know, kingpin like drug lord. Like, that's how it felt like with this guy. He started out like Cam from Modern Family and ended up like the dude from Scarface. Like, it was insanity.
He had like a whole like story arc, like within like 3 hours. It was incredible. Like he transformed in front of our face, and we don't know who the guy was, and we're like, this man's a lunatic. He'd be like, he'd just pick up the Scotty dog and be like, look at me, he's a big old sausage, and like just like, what is happening?
Suffice it to say, it was one of the most wild things you and I have ever gone through. It was a bizarre night, man.
I need to follow. I feel like something came out where he was on drugs, or like something did. He had to go to like rehab or something. Like something did happen later on.
You know, it would be interesting to, the next time I'm in town, low key ask Grant, like, can we have dinner with that couple again?
Yeah, please. We have to go back. And
Let's do a follow-up.
Round 2.